It has been 22 months that we have been in maximum telework status at our jobs. For many of us, that means 670 days of teleworking from our houses, or at least somewhere off campus. 16,060 hours of us interacting with coworkers virtually. And during those 22 months, we've all learned quite a bit about technology and how it can serve us as we telework. But to me, none of the new technology that I've used is more ubiquitous than the video conferencing platform. You know what I'm talking about because we're using one right now. Video conferencing has become the go-to for all of our meetings, webinars, seminars, and virtual conferences. And at this point, I think I can say that I may have seen it all. Today, I want to share my observations of the most common video conferencing platform that I use for teleworking over these last 22 months. The first thing that I want to talk about is my favorite aspect of Vid-Cons, the virtual background, of which I'm using one for this entire speech. Different platforms have different algorithms, and to me, you can really tell how good an algorithm is by how the algorithm treats my naturally curly hair. And so here I give examples of each of the 5 platforms that I'm using today. The ones that are worst performance to me are the ones that kind of smooth out the edges. And that includes Zoom and Teams. You can see my head kind of looks like a circle. That's not how my hair looks in real life. I think the best performers, capture the texture of the hair and also, captures other things in the frame like my fingers. So I'm giving Webex the win on the background. But let's talk more specifically about each platform. Bluejeans, the one we're using right now. It has become a recognizable name within our organization, and it's used most often for large meetings and our town halls. Bluejeans has a lot of things going for it. It's easy to use, and it has important features like breakout rooms and recording capabilities. But my favorite feature of Bluejeans is the chat feature and the fact that you actually have a separate chat window for direct messages. And that means there's a less likely chance of you accidentally sending a private message to the whole chat. Bluejeans also keeps the chat information open for latecomers. If they come a little late to the meeting, they'll see what everyone has said beforehand. That's pretty cool. Bluejeans has its flaws, unfortunately. And my biggest complaint of Bluejeans is that when you open the chat list or you open the participant list, that will cover up part of your screen. It'll cover up the speaker or it'll cover up the screen sharing instead of, just repositioning and shifting everything over. And as Lisa mentioned earlier, it has come to my attention that it also covers a bottom of the screen, so it cuts off if you're recording. That's terrible. So Bluejeans could be better. The next one is Google Meet, and it's a platform that you can use if you have a Google account. I use this platform quite often, more for informal or smaller meetings. It's easy to set up a meeting, you can get a link and you share with others, and you join in your browser. It also has other great features like you can have a video or a moving virtual background, and also has a cool feature where you can use a whiteboard and you can draw on the whiteboard and everyone can see what you're drawing. Very nice. My personal favorite feature is the ability to adjust your settings and to see who is in the call before you actually join the meeting. And this feature to me is perfect for, people that are more shy or antisocial, and maybe they don't want to join the meeting when there's only one person and have that awkward small talk. They'll wait till more people have joined and then they can join into the meeting. Very nice. An area of improvement for Google Meet is the lack of direct messaging. So if you are someone who likes to send private messages during meetings, Google Meet is not for you. The next platform is Webex. And Webex is another platform you can request an account and use, or you can download the app and join a Webex meeting. I usually use it for more formal meetings and things like webinars or seminars. My favorite thing about Webex is the fact that it has pretty much any feature that you really need for a meeting. It's almost like the Zoom alternative. It has your breakout rooms, polls, screen sharing, everything. but my biggest pet peeve is the entry tone. I don't know if anyone has experienced this when you're in a Webex meeting, unless the organizer has turned off this feature, every time someone enters or exits that meeting, there'll be an entry tone. It's not necessary. Let's move on to Teams, which to me is the newest kid on the block. Teams comes free with your Office 365 account. And I usually use this platform for, again, informal meetings or sometimes external meetings. I'm still getting to know Teams personally, but one of the features that I like about it that's unique to Teams is the together mode. And there you can visualize yourself and other participants sitting in like a classroom setting all together. And it's just a fun way to see everybody in the meeting. The downside of Teams to me is the lack of features that other platforms have. And also, if you're not signed on the app for Teams, then you can't even use some of the features that it does have. For example, I tried to change my virtual background, and when I realized I wasn't signed into Teams, I couldn't do that until I signed in. Finally, let's talk about Zoom, the Google of Vid-Cons. Everybody knows Zoom. Your little nieces and nephews know Zoom. Your oldest family member knows Zoom. I usually use Zoom for external meetings. Zoom, of course, has all the features you could want. It's been in the game, to me, the longest. My favorite feature about Zoom is the fact that you can share the audio from your computer instead of having to share like your whole screen. You can just share like music for your computer. So it's very good if you're doing a virtual dance class or a virtual happy hour and you just want to play some music and play it from your computer. So that's nice. My biggest complaint, of course, is Zoom bombing. It's a security flaw that in the beginning of the pandemic, people could access your Zoom meeting and come in there and start saying crazy things and doing weird things in your Zoom. And of course, this security flaw led to the banning of Zoom for many of us, and we couldn't use or download Zoom for quite a while. But thankfully, Zoom has improved on its security, and we're now able to use Zoom meetings and even get a Zoom account. So that is all of my notes on the different VidCons, and you may be wondering, what's the conclusion? Who wins the battle of the VidCons? I'm sorry, friends, but ultimately the choice is yours, and it all depends on the type of meeting, the feature that you need, and what your audience is used to. So take these observations, try each one of them out for yourselves, and I'm sure you'll discover the VidCon for you. Thank you.
And thank you, Jaslyn, for the repeat of the presentation you gave a couple of weeks ago with the VidCons. And I want to say I've noticed the improvements. The first speech was really good, but this one was definitely better than your previous one. It was very polished. And I felt like I was watching like one of those infomercials, like buy now. 'Cause I would say that I don't know if it's the polish is doing as many speeches as you've done or if you've practiced this speech many times, but it seemed very professional. It felt like I plugged like a video in or I was watching TV. And what I appreciated between last time and this time was the backgrounds where you took off a lot of the information, the pros and cons on either side of your head, where to me it was distracting trying to watch your face and trying to look at these two different lists on either side. And this time I found it very effective that you had it all on one side, so my eyes weren't bouncing back and forth. And I like that you distilled it down to just 3 points I had to know about each of the video conferencing systems. And I'm a fan of parallel construction as well. And each one you had, this is what it's used for, this is my favorite feature of it, and then also the con of each one. And it was easy to follow your slides as you went through, and I didn't find myself being distracted by the wording and then what you were saying. I'd say your backgrounds were very effective this time. I also like that you did add some humor to it as well. So you had the little icon that I think the two swords at the very beginning, like the battle of the VidCons. And I like that touch too, because it's kind of a dry topic, and I think you did a good job of engaging me. It's kind of that idea of the technology that's ubiquitous. So we're all familiar with Zoom. As you mentioned, we're all familiar with Zoom. Some of us may or may not be as familiar with Teams. So that's why I liked how you broke it down and you added that humor in there. And then also the kind of the description with the Microsoft Teams where the people sitting in the seats. And also at the end, what you improved this time over the last time too was your ending. You just didn't end it at, I can't give you the answer, but you gave us more of that. You kind of gave us more of that. I'm trying to think of how to say it. You tied it back in with the rest of your speech. Was it like, okay, I just gave you a whole bunch of information. Now you figure out what to do with it. Versus this time you said, here's this information. I gave you the pros and the cons. And now that you have this information that I just gave you, now you're kind of ready to go into different situations. I want to call my grandma. Maybe I want to use Zoom. I want to make a call to my colleagues outside of NIST. Maybe I want to use a different platform. So I really think you were very effective in tying in the end of your speech to the rest of your speech. And I know we always have to give suggestions. So I guess my suggestion for this would be, is if you were, I guess I'm running out of time too, but for my suggestions, maybe think about like the audience that you would give it to. So, some places you might add a little bit more humor, and then other places you might, if it's a more formal setting, you might use less humor. So I think that's what was nice about your speech too, is I think you can easily adapt it to different audiences. A good job. I really enjoyed it. Thank you.